Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and today Apple released iOS 18.2 Beta 2. iOS 18.2 Beta 2 is available to developers, and iOS 18.2 Public Beta 1 should be out soon, either by the time you're watching this video or hopefully later this week. Now the good news is iOS 18.2 supports all iOS 18 supported devices this time around with this beta. So iPhone SE2, iPhone 11 that I have here, all the way up to the 16 Pro and 16 Pro Max. And this came in at 1.38 gigabytes coming from Beta 1 to Beta 2 on my 16 Pro Max, but if you're on an older device that's now supporting this, it will be around 7 gigabytes or so. So it's going to be a fairly large install to go over the old operating system. This was released alongside many other updates, iPadOS 18.2 Beta 2, macOS 15.2 Beta 2, along with watchOS 11.2 Beta 1, tvOS and HomePodOS 18.2 Beta 1, and visionOS 2.2 Beta 1. Now let's go ahead and take a look at the build number and talk about what's new. So we'll go to Settings, then we'll go to General, then About. And as you can see, the build number is 22C5125E. So this gives us some new features and updates, and again, support for those older devices. And the first thing is we do have a new modem update. So when you're upgrading from Beta 1 to Beta 2 or iOS 18.0.1 to this version, you should have a new modem update, which will hopefully help with overall connectivity. Now, as far as new features, well, the first one you may have already noticed. We have some new icons in settings. Everything sort of has a border around it, looks a little bit different, and even if we go into light mode, it still keeps the dark icons if you have them set on the home screen. So if we go to the home screen, press and hold, go to Edit, and then Customize, we can switch back to light. Then if we go back in, you'll see they've switched back to light. However, if you leave them on dark mode on your home screen, it will actually follow it not only to the home screen, but also to settings and throughout the OS now. So if you want to use the dark icons, they're now available. And also it does the same for tinted icons. So if you set tinted icons on a different device, go into settings, you'll see that it follows it there as well. So it will match whatever tinting you have on your device. Now I've tinted the icons to this bluish color, and if we go into settings, you'll see it's followed settings as well. So it's now here even on iPhone 11, and something else that comes to older devices is the new Mail app. You'll see we have the new divided inboxes with primary, all mail, and then we have promotions, updates, as well as transcriptions or transactions rather. So if we go through the different ones, you'll see it now has this new update. You won't have all of the summarizations and things like that you get with Apple Intelligence, but at least you'll have the newly designed overall inbox if you want it. If you want to switch back, switch to list view, and it looks the same, just with sort of background updates. If we go to add a control to the control center, you now have Type to Siri on the older iPhone. However, it's just a keyboard there with a little Siri icon. On a phone that supports Apple Intelligence, we get the new Siri icon for that same icon. So we can add it here, and then you'll see if we tap on it here, it will open up Type to Siri. If we tap on it on a device with Apple Intelligence, it opens Apple Intelligence and looks a little bit different. We don't have the new Siri icon either, or the Siri look with the iPhone 11. So again, that's only for Apple Intelligence supported devices. However, when it comes to Apple Intelligence, we have a couple new things here. So for example, if we go into our settings, go down to Apple Intelligence and Siri, under Apple Intelligence and Siri, if we scroll down to where we have ChatGPT, we have some new options. If we go into this, not only do we have our information above this where we sign into ChatGPT if we have an account, but it now gives us our overall limit. We also have the option to upgrade to ChatGPT Plus directly from here. And if we go to upgrade, you'll see the actual price where it's $20 a month, 5 times more messages, and all of the different benefits if you want to subscribe directly from the iPhone. If we go into messages, within messages, you'll see we have a Genmoji there. If I go into my icons here and go over to my stickers, we can see the different Genmoji I've created. If I press and hold on it, you'll see pressing and holding, it actually shows what I used in order to create it. So we'll try that again, press and hold, a hamburger with a hat on, and that's what created this Genmoji. So we can do that here. So this is a car racing around a track. So if we want to add that, we can just add it here, and that's what it looks like. Same with the little hamburger icon here with a hat on it. So it just gives you more information about it. And if we want to create a new Genmoji, we can do that. It seems to be working a little bit faster and not heating up the phone as much. Something else worth noting is, in general, Image Playground seems to be working just fine. I don't really see much of a change here, but let's add a couple different things here. Maybe Starry Night, and see what it comes up with. So we'll give it just a moment here, and then we'll press done. And that's the overall look it gives me. So it looks a little bit different than what we were having last time. Not sure I like it that much, but you can see what it was making me look like before. And it's got similarities depending on which one it is. But it does look like they're refining this, and it seems a little bit faster. Now with iOS 18.2 Beta 2, people living in Utah under the age of 17 will be opted into restricting adult content. So if we go to X, you can see that Aaron P613 actually found this within the code, where it will automatically block adult content if you're under 17 in Utah. Now, the first time you go into Find My, not only do you get a new splash screen, but you also get an all-new feature. It says, get help finding a lost item by sharing its location with an airline or trusted person. They will be able to see the location of your item on a map. So if we go into Find My and go to an item, under my keys, you'll see I can play a sound, I can share the AirTag, but now I have lost AirTag. Show contact info, so this is just a number I filled in there, and then you have share item location. So you can go into this. We'll go in and it says share item location, get help finding your lost AirTag by sharing its location with an airline or trusted person. Tap continue, then you can actually copy and paste this link to them so that they can share this and try and find your item. Once you've shared it, it now says share item location and when it expires. So we can go back into this here. We'll give it a second. There we go. And then we can turn off item location. So we have those options now. So we can share an item if we need to, if we're trying to find a lost bag or something else. If you have an iPhone 16 model with camera control, there's some new options. If we go down to camera, within camera, under camera control, we now have the option for clean preview and auto exposure and autofocus lock. So if we have clean preview off, when we press on the button here, so if we press it, just like this, half press again, it won't go away right away. So that's a nice option. And then if we press and hold, just hold down, you'll see it will lock autofocus. You'll see it there. Let me rotate the camera again. If we press and hold, it will lock autofocus if we have that enabled. So that's a nice option that they've added. They've also added an option under accessibility. Now under accessibility, there's a bit of an error here where we have camera control. It's showing sort of the code for it, camera button title. But if we go into this, scroll to the bottom, we now have a new option for double click speed, default, slow, or slower. Before we only had one option for light press speed. Now we have the double click option as well. So they're refining this. We still don't have the half press to focus option yet though. Also, something else worth noting is when you're using iPhone mirroring, it will now allow you to use it while you're actually using the iPhone hotspot or you have it enabled. So in your options, if you're using personal hotspot and you have that enabled, you can use it while the phone is being mirrored to your Mac as well. And you can see that it's enabled here. Within shortcuts, we have a couple new options for fitness. So fitness has some more actions now. So if you go to add actions, you'll see additional ones. So open fitness settings, open award, open session history, open trophy case. So those are all new if you're setting up different shortcuts for that. Something else worth noting has to do with notes. If you're within a note and you press and hold, maybe you want to add something here and we slide over. This was actually in beta 1, but we now have the option to create an image. So it's a new option here, just press and hold, and then you can create an image. So a house with 2 windows, and then it should create it right away. So give it just a moment to create that. There it goes. It's going over the top of the other image, and then it created something new. So that's something they've refined a little bit. Again, in beta 1, it shows. There's what it looks like here in beta 2 as well. A couple other things worth noting as far as new features. Well, third-party app stores don't seem to work anymore in the USA with beta 2. So here is the Alt Store. If I go to download this, it says you're not eligible to install apps from altstore.io. So maybe they'll bring this back, but it's not looking good, at least in the United States so far. And while we had a splash screen for Find My, we also had one for Genmoji, where it says express yourself, personalize Genmoji, and use Genmoji like emoji. So just a couple new things here. Now, as far as issues they've resolved, well, the only one I was able to find so far has to do with the keyboard, with the emoji keyboard. In previous betas, it was sort of blank where there were different emoji. And if we went into our recent stickers, this was blank as well. The first time I went into it with this beta, it still had the bug, but then I gave it a moment, came back, and it had remedied itself. So that's something that seems to be fixed. It does still seem to have a few touch issues here and there. You may have already noticed that while I was making this video. And also, I haven't really noticed any other issues so far. I haven't seen any complaints yet, but we'll have to test that on the weekend after we've used it for a few days. As far as new releases, well, iOS 18.2 Beta 3 could be as soon as next week. And the reason I say that is if we go back out here, it looks like Apple's going to release iOS 18.2 to the public probably on December 2nd, according to Mark Gurman. Mark Gurman got the iOS 18.1 release correct, and it looks like he'll probably get it correct this time around. So unless they have delays, we could see Beta 3 on the 11th, Beta 4 on the 18th, and the RC on the 25th. This is what I would expect, but it's possible we could have a 2-week gap again until Beta 3. But given the timeline that they're going for, it looks like we'll probably have that sooner rather than later. Also, iOS 18.3 could release in the first week of December as well, or the second week, and then we probably won't have anything until January at that point. That's typically what they do every year. As far as overall performance, well, I did run benchmarks. We'll take a look at that in a moment. But the iPhone 11, after it finished processing, seemed to be pretty fast. No issues here, seemed to be smooth, noticeably smoother than it was before, especially on the 16 Pro Max. Things like ProMotion are nice and smooth, and just opening and closing apps so far seem to be pretty good. So it looks like it's working quite well. No real issues so far, other than maybe your connection speed. Other than that, it seems like it's going to be a pretty solid update so far. When it comes to the heat of the device, well, the 16 Pro Max did get quite warm right away, but it seems to be much cooler than it was, especially running different things from Apple Intelligence, so Genmoji, Image Playground, and more. When it comes to battery life, let's take a look at that. If we go into battery and then battery health, I'm at 100% with 39 cycles, and Beta 1 was pretty poor on battery. 2 hours and 6 minutes of screen active time yesterday, 4 hours and 56 minutes of screen idle time, and I used almost 75% of my battery. Hopefully it improves today. So far, I've already basically passed that, 2 hours and 8 minutes, and I'm down to 61%. So it seems to be better already. Again, this will take a few days to check, and we'll talk about it on the weekend with the follow-up, typically Saturday morning. As far as storage, well, many people want to know how much storage this is using. And while Apple sort of manages that on its own, under storage, give it a second to load here. If we scroll to the bottom, you'll see iOS is actually 15.13 gigabytes and Apple Intelligence is 3.18 gigabytes. When you install the update, it overwrites the old update, and it's not using any additional storage. System data can go up and down. So this could be very high or very low, but it manages itself. And unless you're running out of storage, it's not really an issue. As far as if you should install iOS 18.2 Beta 2, well, if you're on Beta 1, absolutely install it, try it out, especially if you're on another device. Maybe you have an older iPhone you want to try it out on, you could do that. However, of course, you won't get Apple Intelligence features, but it seems to be okay so far, but I would typically wait for public beta 1. Then you'll know it's stable enough to try out on your main device. I typically don't recommend using them on your main device though. As far as overall benchmarks, I did run it on the 16 Pro Max and iPhone 11, so let's go into it here. And you'll see on the 16 Pro Max, it scored 3,464 for single core, 8,439 for multi-core. So it's doing pretty good compared to what it was before. It's a little bit higher than Beta 1 with both single and multi-core scores. And if we take a look at the iPhone 11 with iOS 18.1, it seems to be higher as well. So in general, it's doing pretty good. You'll see this is 18.1, 18.2, Beta 2, and this device seems to be doing just fine. So no issues whatsoever. Seems to be a pretty solid update so far, but again, we'll talk about it on the weekend. Now, if you found any additional features I didn't mention in the video, I'd love to hear from you in the comments. And of course, I'll link this wallpaper in the description like I normally do. If you haven't subscribed already though, please subscribe. And if you enjoyed the video, please give it a like. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.